So while there were no photos taken of Sassacus, there's no drawings, there's no photos that were taken of him. I'm going to use this one and this image only, just so you get used to this being the character. I think it would help the story along better. I also like this likeness the best. I only found like 4 or 5 images. So this is the image I'm going to use for Sassacus, so as not to confuse the audience. Sincerely, Chief Butterfly. The Pequot watched John Mason's departure, and they became convinced that the English had abandoned the attack and they were retreating to Boston. When John Mason reached the Narragansett villages, 200 warriors joined his ranks, and he received their permission to travel overland through Narragansett territory for a surprise attack on Mystic Fort in present-day Groton, Connecticut, from the rear. With John Mason's force now numbering more than 400, he left the Narragansett villages and he moved west across the hills of western Rhode Island. They had barely left before the Narragansett became alarmed by the clumsy manner in which the English soldiers moved through the forest, and they were certain their entire party would be discovered in ambush. Only a fiery speech by Uncas, the first of the Mohegans, challenging their courage, kept the Narragansett from leaving the expedition. Despite becoming lost several times, the Mohegan finally located the Pequot Fort on May 26th and guided John Mason's army to it. They had not only arrived undiscovered, but the Pequot warriors who normally would have defended Mystic were absent. Sassacus was gone, lulled into a sense of false security by the sight of the English retreat to the east. Sassacus and his Pequot warriors had formed a war party and gone to raid the European settlements near Hartford, trapping 700 Pequot inside the fort, mostly women, children, and old people. John Mason and his pilgrim men heartlessly, barbarically set it on fire. Those Pequot, not burned to death, were killed when they tried to escape. It was shooting fish in a barrel. Following John Mason's orders, the Narragansett and Mohegan finished any Pequot the English had missed. But soon the Narragansett and the Mohegans were aghast. They were disgusted when the English indiscriminately slaughtered Pequot women and children. They'd never seen anything like it, and they left. Their grim work completed, John Mason made a hasty retreat, actually a headlong rush, to his boats waiting at a rendezvous on the Thames River. Sassacus's village was only 5 miles away. Of course, Sassacus and his Pequot warriors were in hot pursuit. During the race for the river, Mason almost stumbled into a returning 300-man war party, but the Pequot were distracted by the smoke from the burning village. The English reached their boats after suffering only 2 killed and 20 wounded and promptly left. Their native allies were not so fortunate, abandoned to find their own way home. Half of them never made it back. So even the allies of the English, the Narragansett, the Mohegans, they said half of them didn't even make it back. But just pay attention how John Mason is going to go attack a sleeping village. He's not, it's not man on man or military on military warfare. There's no rules of engagement. It's war, and war is hell. So they're going after a scorched earth campaign. They couldn't beat the Pequot. The warriors were too strong. They didn't know what to do. So the English pilgrims said, John Mason got a great idea. John Mason said, hey, why don't we, instead of attacking the warriors, instead of going after Sassacus, why don't we attack Sassacus's babies and his women and the old people still left in the villages. Terrorism, attacking a civilian population for political ends. That's terrorism according to the State Department. So John Mason and the English colonists were terrorists. They were murdering children and women in their tribes, in their home, in order to achieve a political ends. And the Native Americans were stunned. Even the Mohegan and the Narragansett had to leave because they'd never seen how that barbarity of the English colonies shocked the Narragansett and the Mohegans, that they started out as allies, but then they left. So when we talk about savages, who's the real savage? The ones who are disgusted by the murder of children and women and old people, innocents. They went into the village. They shot anybody, lit the whole thing on fire. Anybody tried to leave, only one or two escaped. And this is 700 children, women, old people who were murdered the day after the governor, I won't say of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, John Winthrop declared Thanksgiving, an official day of Thanksgiving. Thanks be to God that God give us the strength and the power to subdue these Pequot. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for giving us the strength to murder these women and children. And if someone says, well, wait a second, there's nothing in the Bible that says that. Well, there's plenty in the Bible that says, especially the Old Testament, that says that you need to kill the savages, the heathens, the people who are not Muslim. I mean, that's like a Christian jihad. If you're not Christian, then they're allowed to kill you. And that's the story of Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. You genocidal, bloodthirsty, don't know what the fuck you're celebrating, but going to continue to celebrate it anyways, assholes. But to be honest with you, I don't understand why people get all pissed off about Nicki Minaj. There is, oh my God, she just threw some shade at J-Lo. J-Lo does a performance. She does Anaconda. My Anaconda don't want none from Sir Mix-a-Lot. They didn't use Nicki Minaj's Anaconda song. They just used Sir Mix-a-Lot's song, and then they flashed it to Nicki Minaj, and she just literally, all she did was she was looking off to the side, and then she looked straight, and everybody was like, what's her face say? What was her reaction? Oh my God, what is this? And it's nothing. It was absolutely nothing. It just seems like she was sort of spaced out, and then the video camera was like, hey, Nicki Minaj, right, Anaconda, what's she going to think about it? If anything, it was the camera crew at the event that was trying to turn it into something. But see, I think Nicki Minaj is in a class all to her own. She's like a Quentin Tarantino film. A Quentin Tarantino film, Django. There is no film like it. They're in a class of their own. And since they're in a class all by themselves, there's a lot of jealousy. Nicki Minaj, she is Kim Kardashian with talent. Nicki Minaj actually has something to offer the world. She's got some talent because she can sing and dance. And she's got a full body figure. She didn't throw shade at J-Lo. She was just looking. She just turned her face from the side to forward. She was looking to the side, and then she looked forward. Oh my God, what does that mean? What the fuck are you guys even saying anymore? I mean, if she was throwing shade, that might be something to talk about, but it's like there's such a vacuum. And maybe you're so vapid that just for a moment, because you wanted her to have a beef, because you thought or you wanted her to get mad about something, so you projected something that wasn't there just to talk about it. I mean, that just kind of shows how big Nicki Minaj is. She's in a class all of her own. So give me a fucking break. Shit. Also want you to check out, I'm going to have a more fuller-length Thanksgiving story that was just a snippet. I'd like to actually go through all of the facts of the case. And there's going to be a Christmas story. I got a Christmas story coming up. I've been thinking of a whole bunch of ideas just keep on coming to me. I think this is a better presentable format. But the Christmas story is going to be a juxtaposition of George Washington crossing the Delaware and Chief Plucky Amingo crossing the Ohio. So you got one American revolutionary crossing the Delaware River on the eastern theater of the Revolutionary War, going north. And then you got another American revolutionary crossing the Ohio River, going south in the western theater of the American Revolution. And I think that not only are their directions going in, not only going in opposite directions, but I think the trajectory of their ideology is going in opposite directions too.